Okay, last but not least, we have Garen Freed, who has a minute to get his, is it already in there?
Yeah.
All right. So Garen is also a history major with an education minor and also plans to teach. So we have 3 future teachers in a row, which is nice. He's from Clearwater Beach, Florida. He's also a semi-professional heavy metal guitarist, as far as I know, right? Which is pretty cool. So, and he was going to do a paper on blues, but ended up with the current project, which is quite different. Alcibiades, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Alcibiades.
Alcibiades. As Statesman, Incarnation of Intelligence or Icon of Ineptitude.
The actual title of the project went back from iniquity to ineptitude. So on here it's iniquity, but it should be ineptitude, just a corner. But hello, my name is Garen Freed. Like Dr. Garen said, I'm a history major. I'm graduating. Hallelujah. My title is Alcibiades, Statesman, Incarnation of Intelligence or Icon of Iniquity. Now, before I go into anything, I just want to provide a little background information. The Peloponnesian War, actually leading off exactly where Alex left off. I'm going to be talking about the years between, roughly between 435 and 404. Now, Alcibiades was born in 450, but he didn't enter into the military until about 434 and 432 BC. Obviously, like Alex was saying, the confusion over Greek hegemony in the wake of the Greco-Persian War was the cause of the Peloponnesian War. However, in 429, Pericles, which was the leader of Athens, the leader of the golden age of Athens, had died. And this sent Athens into a state of irrationality, and I'll get to that later. Now, the wars between Athens, which was in control of the Delian League, or the Athenian Empire, and Sparta, which was in control of the Peloponnesian League. The war was divided into 3 parts. You have the Archidamian War, you have the Peace of Nisus and the Sicilian Expedition, and then you also have the Ionian War. Now, for the purpose of Alcibiades, I'm going to be talking mostly about the Peace of Nisus, the Sicilian Expedition, and going a little bit into the Ionian War. Eventually, this did lead to the demise of Athens. So who is Alcibiades? Born in 450 near Athens, he was raised in aristocratic grandeur, and he was actually raised into the household of Pericles, which is the great Athenian leader. He was actually a relative of Pericles after his parents had died. He entered into the military, like I said, in 432, but he saw a few battles, as is reflected within the primary sources. He was led to Strategoi several times between the years of 421 and 415. And he was also notorious for his public vulgarity and narcissism, which is a huge factor in the development of his character and the development of his personality as a leader going forward. He defected to both Sparta and Persia after losing support in Athens, which is also another part of his lack of intelligence and lack of ability to lead. So the debate in evaluating the leadership of Alcibiades as a statesman. Now, Alcibiades, throughout history, the evaluation of his leadership has been a split decision since the time of Alcibiades between historians and of modern historians today. It's actually considered one of the first instances of historiography, actually. So then there are 2 preeminent views of modern historians that I'm going to point out today. The first is the Hatfield and Ellis view, which considers Alcibiades to be an intelligent military leader, going so far as to endorse him as one of Athens' greatest strategists. And also comparable to many other historical individuals, Themistocles being a closest match, and also comparing him to the heroes of myth. Then we have the Blodo-Rhodes view, which is views that Alcibiades was an egocentric aristocrat whom, despite his high social status, lacked the ability and intelligence needed to assert himself as a successful military leader. And he also sees that Alcibiades' brief rise to prominence was only made possible by the wavering support of an equally irrational Athenian society. Now, my argument is close to this, which is while historians like Hatfield and Ellis tend to over-exaggerate and glorify Alcibiades' military exploits and political involvement in light of his significant social status and rank during the Peloponnesian War, I argue that a proper examination of Alcibiades' career as a statesman will accentuate the fact that Alcibiades lacked the ability and intelligence necessary to assert himself as a successful military and political leader. Now, in order to obviously prove this, I'm going to need to evaluate the primary sources very delicately. So first we have Thucydides, who wrote the history of the Peloponnesian War, the handbook, if you will, of anything regarding ancient Greece, especially with the Peloponnesian War. I'm sure Alex and both Courtney used this in their research, as anybody that is covered in the Peloponnesian War must. Next we have Xenophon. Actually, after Thucydides died, he was the one that picked up afterwards, documenting the last 25% of the war, and then also after. And then we have Plato, who actually documented Alcibiades' and Socrates' relationship in the first and second Alcibiades, as well as different histories. Now, the sentiments of these primary historians and the contemporary historians are really important in identifying whether or not Alcibiades was in fact an intelligent leader. So first we have Thucydides saying that the cause of these evils was the lust for power arising from greed and ambition, talking about Alcibiades. And then with Indocides saying, in my own opinion, he is a worthless statesman who considers only the present without also giving thought to the future, who advocates the policy which will please the people and says nothing of that which their true interests require. And then we have Lysias saying, from the outset, Alcibiades has shown himself so unworthy of citizenship that it is the duty of anyone, even in the absence of personal wrong suffered at the hands, to regard him nonetheless as an enemy because of the general tenor of his life. Pretty important to think about that these are the sentiments of the actual people, of the contemporary people of Alcibiades' time. And the fact that they were writing this, the fact that they were documenting this, speaks volumes to the actual character and the evaluation of Alcibiades as a leader. Now, methodology. Obviously, chronology is important in this. So first, in order to evaluate correctly Alcibiades' life, I go through three parts. The first is Alcibiades in Athens, which 450 to 415, quite frankly, the largest part of Alcibiades' life. I talk about his youth and personality development, how Alcibiades' narcissistic personality really transformed him into a narcissistic leader as well. Relationship with Socrates. Like I said, Plato did document that he had a relationship with Socrates. However, I argue that his relationship with Socrates was not able to come to fruition due to the fact that Alcibiades was unable to really understand the idea of the care of the soul. Then I'm going to talk about the peace of Nicias and the feud of Nicias, highlighting that the fact that Alcibiades did not want peace, and that the fact that he actually wanted to continue war in order to achieve personal superiority. I'm going to talk about the 416 Olympics and societal rationality. The fact that he was able to become one of the top leaders in Athens and highest regarded leaders in Athens, simply because he entered chariots into the 416 race and everybody loved him. This is the irrationality, and this is also because, as I talk about, that Pericles had died, leaving Athens into a chaos, and this is reminiscent of that. And then the Sicilian expedition, which failed miserably, and I'll get into that as well. And then representation of Lysistrata, which is a comedy that portrayed men as women and really identified peace with Athens for the people. Then talking about Sparta after his defection there. We're going to talk about his relationship with King Aegeus II of Sparta and how he failed to really fit into Sparta. He initially did, and this is coming after the fact that he defected to Sparta due to the fact that Sparta lost complete interest and lost support of Alcibiades. Moving on, we're going to talk about his return to Athens in 412 and through 406. And he went to Persia first in order to get away from Sparta because he ended up actually falling a victim to several sexual exploits one being of the king's wife, so he had to, jet. His relationship with Statesman, which is the Persian satrap of the area where he went to, and why Alcibiades was able to return to Athens, and if he was able to actually become a successful leader. In turn, he actually was not, and he actually ended up losing at the Battle of Nadium in 406, causing great casualties and exiling him to Persia. Evaluating Alcibiades. Now, it's important to understand that the word intelligence is used by Thucydides to signify a great leader. And Edmund Blodo points out that in order to evaluate Alcibiades effectively, we need to first see that if his ability to conceive policies which are consonant with the needs and/or best interests of the state at the given time, the ability to carry out such policies, and at the same time possession of foresight so as to be able to anticipate positive and especially negative fallout, responsible conduct, i.e. by putting the interests of state above one's own personal interests, and finally ensure that one's personal life does not become a political liability. Now, I would love to go into nearly every single aspect of Alcibiades' leadership was completely off balance with this code, but I only have time to really go into one, which is the largest one, the Sicilian expedition. Alcibiades' only purpose in the expedition, upon attaining immense popularity, brought about by the success of his chariots. That was the only reason why he was able to actually do that. Alcibiades neglected to acknowledge the sheer size of the Sicilian expedition, undermining the diplomatic scheme on which the strategy rested. Also, his motives with the Sicilian expedition were centered on achieving personal superiority, disregarding completely Athens' damaged mentality and the need for peace. The campaign resulted in the unnecessary death of thousands of Athenian and allied troops, and even historians who argue that Alcibiades was a brilliant military leader find that Alcibiades did not balance his daring spirit with a sufficient sense of caution with regards to the Sicilian expedition. That's it. So thank you very much.